Hi Rebels, welcome to the ultimate Creator AI Showdown. I have tested Gemini and ChatGPT to find out who's better in generating blog post ideas and writing blog posts. Without further ado, let's get raw, real, and personal. I've tested both in 5 categories: following instructions, being on brand, readability and flow, creativity and originality, and engagement. In order to make this happen, let me set the scene. So I have my own brand guide, which is, capturing my audience, my brand voice, my mission, my vision statement. And for this test, I created a fictional brand guide, which is for Julian, a fictional character. He's a upcycled fashion designer. His brand is called The Urban Alchemist, and he basically uses recycled material, old denims, and creates this awesome, new, trendy street fashion. I used this guide, I uploaded it to Gemini and to ChatGPT, and I asked the same question, which was, I've attached my brand guide, come up with 5 blog post titles that align with my brand and audience. So both of them have done a great job in following instructions. I mean, it's really not that hard to follow that instructions. It wasn't overcomplicated. But what I found really interesting is that I've run this test twice, and let me get my little iPad here. I run this test twice, and what was very interesting is that there was some inconsistency in the output. So the first time I run it, Gemini, and I will put in a screen somewhere, has suggested 5 titles, 5 blog post ideas. The second time I run this test, Gemini has not only suggested 5 blog post ideas, but it even told me why it is appealing to my audience, how it is aligned to my brand voice, the concept behind the blog idea, and the content pillar it belongs to. So in the brand guide that I have created, there are, I believe, 4 or 5 content pillars. So I found that really good. And I didn't actually give instructions for that. But let me tell you, I will 100% implement that. And in the future, I will always ask for, tell me which content pillar, tell me audience appeal, the brand voice, and the concept behind the blog post. Because that itself was incredibly useful. And Gemini gets a point, obviously, for following the instructions. ChatGPT, very interesting as well. I think it's because I may have written the prompt differently. So the first time, again, it also just gave me 5 blog post ideas. I put it on the screen so you can see it. And the second time around, same thing. It not only gave me 5 blog post ideas, but it also gave me a description, so a little summary what this blog post will be about. So a concept, basically. So when we compare both of the prompts that I used, the first time I simply said I've attached my brand guide, come up with 5 blog post titles that align with my brand and my audience. The second time I have used the prompt, create 5 blog post ideas that are on brand and for my audience. I attached the brand guide. So I don't know what happened here. I mean, obviously to me, but maybe clearly it's different for AI, the same prompts, but just written in a different way. And the second time I wrote this prompt, I got so much more depth to my prompt. That was very interesting. So both of them receive a point for following instructions. Let's look into the other categories. So we have brand voice, creativity, readability, engagement. What I found overall with Gemini is that it tends to be more creative and more human, while ChatGPT sounds a bit robotic. So with the blog post titles itself, it didn't really come out that clearly, but later on in writing the blog posts, you will see that ChatGPT is a bit of a robot and it just feels a bit off. So blog post, I really liked. I mean, I'm a Gemini girl anyway, so I'm probably a little bit biased here. But the blog post ideas that Gemini came up were very consistent. They were on brand. So my brand voice was integrated or considered, or it was written in my brand voice. And as I said, even the second time around, it would even tell me why this blog post is on brand. So for example, it gave me the blog post idea, From Landfill to Runway, the journey of a transformed denim jacket, which I think is really awesome actually. And brand voice, it said it's artistic, personal, raw, it's a storytelling. So I really, really, really like that. And also that it told me why it gave me this blog post idea. Yeah. ChatGPT, on the other hand, very, I don't know, there's something odd about it. I can't put my finger on it, but it just sounds really like it's written by AI. I think what I've noticed is that ChatGPT oftentimes says things, but after you read it, you feel like you don't really know anything. It's very odd. So let's see. From street to statement, the art of turning urban textiles into wearable stories. I mean, that's a good title. The Secret Life of Garments, stories hidden in the discarded fabrics. It's all right, but it just doesn't say anything. Like, it's very generic in many ways, which is a little bit surprising because I did upload my brand guide with my brand voice. So I would have liked for it to be a little bit more catching up on the brand voice, but it hasn't done that. It's very, it almost feels like it just took my vision or the story about the brand and came up with titles, but it doesn't feel on brand. And so, guess what? The point goes to Gemini. ChatGPT is not going to get a point. And to fast forward this whole process of giving points, I can tell you right now that ChatGPT for blog post creation received a point in readability and flow. Can't really remember why, but I mean, it is readable. It does sound a little bit robotic. So I did give it a point. Maybe I did feel a little bit empathetic towards ChatGPT because Gemini really won this. 5 points in all categories for Gemini. So if you are a ChatGPT advocate, maybe it's time to check out Gemini. The second test was that I wanted both Gemini and ChatGPT to create a blog post from one of the blog post ideas that it suggested. In order to really see and compare it, I picked one blog post idea that both had to create a blog post for. And for the first time I run this test, the prompt was create a blog post for From Street to Statement, the art of turning urban textiles into wearable stories. that is on brand and for my audience. So I just remind both of them, Gemini and ChatGPT, make sure it's on brand. And what happened next was that surprisingly, Gemini started its blog post with actually, it felt a bit more like an email because it started off with, "Hey, conscious style rebels." Guess that's not really a bad thing, especially because Julian's voice, brand voice, is personal and it's storytelling. So it felt instantly intimate. And the way the blog post was written was very Julian on brand voice, and it felt like the fictional character that exists in my mind, that he actually has written it. So I'm just going to read one little paragraph. You see what I mean. He starts off with, "Hey, conscious style rebels, ever walked through the city and seen the raw, vibrant tapestry of urban life? The faded billboards, the discarded tubs," I hope that's how you pronounce it, "the denim worn thin from countless adventures. What if I told you those forgotten materials hold the potential for a new kind of beauty, a new kind of story?" So that was the introduction text. Now, ChatGPT wrote the following. "In every city street, there's a hidden gallery. One made of forgotten fabrics, overlooked garments, and discarded materials, quietly waiting for a second life. To most, they're just waste. To me, they're the raw poetry of the urban landscape, whispering stories of where they've been and hinting at who they could become." Do you also find this sounds very poetic? Which is interesting because poetic is not part of Julian's brand voice. So I don't know, the way ChatGPT writes is, at least in this context with receiving the brand guide, is a bit bizarre because it's just, I'm reading this text and I don't really know anything after I read it. It doesn't say anything. So, and I always found that with ChatGPT when creating something or asking for inspiration for blog posts, that, I don't know, it says many things, but it says nothing at the same time. So, and it does feel very generic and poetic, weirdly poetic. There's a lot of words in there also that people don't usually use. So maybe that's what makes it so unhuman. Or maybe it's the way the sentences are structured. I don't know, but it just doesn't sound right. Gemini is doing a better job in that. It just sounds more personal. It sounds human. It has sentences that are easy to understand and to comprehend. And when you read it, you feel like you can connect to the blog post. And yeah, it just feels personal. And it feels like you're actually receiving some information when you read it, like you know what's going on. While with ChatGPT, it's always a bit odd. So what else has happened in these? Oh, I think she has to sneeze. It's gone. Oh God, what's happening? What I really liked on Gemini also, it actually gave me an image idea. Didn't ask for it, but it's a nice little touch of a before and after shot, which again actually makes sense because that's part of the content pillars in Julian's print guide. So that was cool. And yeah, so to sum it up, 5 points for Gemini and 1 point for ChatGPT. So that 1 point that goes to ChatGPT is for following instructions, because it has produced a blog post. Was it a great blog post? No, but it has done the job. It created a blog post which sounded very unhuman, robotic, and utterly poetic, with very fancy words in many ways, saying so many things and saying nothing. And Gemini, a bit more down to earth, created a blog post that sounds human, that isn't a brand voice, that is actually engaging. That was really cool as well, because with Gemini, it ended the blog post, and I think this happened with both my tests. Yes, it ended both blog posts with a question, so which is so much more engaging and it encourages the reader to, whatever the question is. The question was like a CTA, call to action. The first time around, it wrote, "Ready to wear your story. Explore our latest transformations and discover how urban textiles can become wearable art, unique to you." Found that really cool. And the second time around, for the second test, it wrote, "What forgotten piece in your wardrobe is waiting for its own transformation story?" So call to action here is write a comment, for example. And in the first one, it's explore our latest transformations. So it keeps the audience engaged. And I like that. While with ChatGPT, it just closed the door at the end of the blog post. What did it say? So the last sentence in the first test was, "From street to your wardrobe, each garment is an alchemy of past and present, a fusion of grit and grace, and together we can turn the ordinary into extraordinary, one wearable story at a time." It also feels really cliche. Ugh, I get a little bit like, when I read this. I don't know. It's like trying too hard. Yeah, I don't think ChatGPT it doesn't come across like a cool kid. What's your take on this? It feels like to me like it's like just trying too hard, wanting to do it, but can't really do it. Trying too hard to pretend to be human. And the second blog post, it wrote, "Because when you wear something like this, you're not just wearing clothing, you're wearing a story of transformation. And maybe, just maybe, you're carrying a little bit of that spirit with you too." And that's the end. Where do we go from here, ChatGPT? Where are you going to send my reader? Nothing. Okay, so to sum it up again, Gemini, oh Gemini, you have won. So, I mean, it's not even a comparison. Gemini won for blog post ideas 5, ChatGPT 2 points. For creating a blog post, Gemini 5 points, ChatGPT 1 point. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the test. Now, what does this teach us? It teaches us that, first of all, it's almost like some humanness to both, because there is almost like this inconsistency. Like one day, both of them respond this way with a very similar prompt, and the next day they respond in a very different way. So I don't know what this is based on, but it's a bit strange. So it feels very human. We go through ebb and flow, ups and downs. One day we're higher performing, the next day we're lower performing. What does it teach us? What's another lesson here is that, I'm very much convinced that Gemini is the better blocker. And I would love to know from you if you agree, or if you're obviously someone who uses ChatGPT a lot and you have different experiences, please let us know in the comments. From this test, however, from this test alone, it doesn't look that good for ChatGPT. So maybe there are some other use cases. I think that ChatGPT maybe is doing other things better. Maybe it can write mathematical equations or software, but when it comes to pretending to be human, it's not doing such a good job. It's not a writer. While Gemini is really outperforming ChatGPT in this area. It is more creative. It is better in understanding a brand voice based on the brand guide that I shared with both. And not only that, it really implements the brand, like it embodies the brand. So it's not even just about the brand voice, but understanding the engagement, like engaging, and that's in the brand guide as well, and really implementing that. That's really amazing. So personally, I am using Gemini when I want to come up with blog post ideas or in just general writing. I upload my brand guide and then it becomes a very collaborative experience. But because Gemini is so good already in understanding my document and really embodying what I feed it as its own, like it becomes almost me, which is almost a little bit scary. But the creative process becomes so much easier because, of course, there's still like changes and polishing happening, and I rewrite things. But because the foundation is there, it makes the process so much easier. And I also recommend when you are using, whether you use ChatGPT or Gemini, always make sure that you do not just take it as it spits it out, read it, and whatever doesn't feel 100% yet like you or your brand voice, change it. There's this amazing thing that we have as humans. It's called intuition. And we know from within when something is deeply aligned or it isn't. So whenever you create a blog post or any type of social media content as well, make sure that it really feels true to you. There's all this, controversy about using an AI, not using AI. But the fact is, AI is not going anywhere. It stays. It's here to stay. So it's about learning how you can co-create with AI and really using it to empower you rather than being drowning in AI. So what are the ways to use AI to be empowered? That is a question I'm going to give you. So you can put it in the comments. One thing I do need to learn is I need to start breathing. Whenever I make these videos, I do not breathe. I don't know what it is about. It's like I get too like, I don't know, stiff. I mentioned brand guide a few times. If you are a creator, whether you are a fashion designer like my fictional character Julian, you are, I don't know, a product designer, you are a filmmaker, any type of creator. It can be that you create products or services. We're all creators. So, and we're all in the same boat because it's all about connecting with our audience. And the way we can do that is by not only creating our products and our services, but it's by showing up and bringing value and creating content for our audience to build this community and connection, genuine connection between the brand, us, and our customers, our clients, our audience. So a brand guide is super important. Even if you are saying, well, I don't need it. I am just a YouTuber who uploads videos once in a while. I don't need a brand guide. Well, guess what? You do. Because you, whether you know it or not, are a brand. You're a personal brand. And it is important to become clear about what are your values, what is your mission, what is your vision, writing down your content pillars so that there's consistency, but also this constant inspiration when you do have a bad day and you don't know who you are anymore, because this is what happens to creatives. You have always this document to come back to and remind yourself of your brand voice, your values, your mission, your vision, that can be extremely inspiring. And also, as we have seen, this document is such a advantage when it comes to working with AI, because it saves you tons of time. First of all, you don't have to give like a really long instruction. You can simply upload your brand guide and say, write this and this in my brand voice and for my audience. And you don't have to repeat yourself over and over again, who you are, what you do, blah, blah, blah. So that saves you tons of time, but also because you have this document with this consistency, and you really shaped your business and your vision and your future, and what you really understand your audience, and you capture that in that document. AI is able to use all of that information and really spit out ideas and content that are in alignment with your brand and with your audience. That not only saves you time, but it actually enables you or empowers you to create content, products, services that are bringing value to your audience and that are resonating with your audience. So it really speeds up the process of creating a thriving brand and business. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more raw, real, and personal insights. And I'm going to see you next time.